Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I came across this ad or this article, and the headline is right here. Okay, so for African American families hit hard by the war on drugs, pot comes out of the shadow, but slowly. And so I'm thinking like, okay, well, what is this about? I'm thinking it's gonna tell us how somehow pot got black men out of prison or something. I don't know. So then I'm reading it, and I'll read some to you guys. Jesse Horton still remembers the advice his father often imparted to him while he was growing up. Don't talk back to the police, for example, or don't reach for your wallet. Marijuana, said the 34-year-old Horton, was always a big part of those conversations. It was something that can be used to hurt you, to ruin your life. For Horton, who grew up mostly in Virginia and South Carolina, this warning was more than just a hypocritical. His father has spent time in prison for a marijuana-related charge, and the consequences of that experience weighed heavily on his family. So, okay. According to an exclusive Yahoo News Maurice poll, 86% of African Americans support legalizing marijuana for medical use, while 53% support legalizing it for recreational use. Percentages consist with overall national opinions, but for African American families for whom both religion and devastating impacts of the war on drugs wield strong influences, warming up to weed has been a bit more complicated. Now, you see how stupid this is, and if this is the way black people are thinking. So it's saying that because of the war on drugs, that and religion, that black people are more likely to not want to legalize marijuana. To warming up, it's a bit complicated. You would think that all black people would want it legalized. But anyway, so while I'm reading this, I'm thinking, okay, so maybe they're changing the law to let all the black people that got swept up on their mass incarceration rates, they're gonna let them out, because if you're in prison for 5-10 years for having an ounce of marijuana, then surely they're gonna let you out, because it's now they see that that they made a mistake, what they did was stupid, and they're gonna rectify that. That's what I'm still thinking that's what this article must be about, but it's not. Black parents in the country have long sort of had the talk and had to install in their children that what may be to other kids just a youthful indiscretion can have dire consequences for them, given the climate and the context of their lives, said Alessa Aguilera, co-executive director of Vocal NY, a grassroots organization that advocates for low-income communities affected by HIV and AIDS, the war on drugs, and mass incarceration throughout New York State. Okay. James L. Taylor, director of African American Studies program at the University of San Francisco, studied the attitude towards legalization of African American voters in California, and one of the co-authors of the book Something's in the Air: Race, Crime, and the Legalization of Marijuana. Contrary to what many people might perceive in pop culture and mass media, African Americans are very conservative in the state of California on the issue of legal marijuana, at least African American voters, who Tyler points out are not necessarily representative of the entire community. Those who tend to turn out and vote are middle class, Borgerius voters tend to be affiliated with Black religious organizations. Overall, Taylor found that religion, more than anything, tends to shape attitude towards legalizing marijuana. That was certainly the case for Jacob Plowden, whose Southern Baptist family generally viewed weed as a taboo topic as he was growing up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and later New York City. "You smoke, you're going to hell," Plowden said as his mother's views on marijuana. "If you do drugs, you're obviously a bad person." That just makes Black people seem really, really stupid. If you smoke marijuana, you're going to hell. Okay. Even on his father's side of the family, which was less religious, if anyone was using marijuana, they certainly didn't talk about it. In addition to their religious belief, Plowder's family was actually aware of that marijuana was illegal. For his parents' generation, weed was one of those things that you stayed away from because you didn't want the connotation of being a drug user or affiliated criminal. By the time Plowden was born in 1991, marijuana had become a source of immense strife within the Black community, with young Black men in particular being incarcerated in disproportionate numbers, owing to the war on drugs. And it's funny because you know this ad is one of those fake news ads, because disproportionate to what? Like, they can't say that they're disproportionate to white people that want to use marijuana, because they just don't get arrested for it. Since he was a kid, every time Plowder left his house, he said his mom would warn him, "Remember, you're Black." "She still says that," said Plowden, now 26, laughing. He repeats his mother's 3-word mantra meant to urge caution in virtually any situation, including those involving marijuana. "Remember, you're Black." Despite their parents' warnings, both Plowden and Horton experimented with marijuana and found it beneficial as well as enjoyable. For Plowden, it soothed his migraines and insomnia he suffered ever since a major concussion at 12. For Horton, it helped him focus on schoolwork. I think I had some ADD when I was younger, and it was just really hard for me to sit down and study math problems, said Horton. But when I started consuming cannabis, things really changed. A lot acts academically for me. Marijuana advocates state indicative evidence for people self-medicating with pot for attention deficit problems. Both the National Institute for Drug Abuse adheres to the mainstream view that the drug is not conducive to academic achievement. Horton credits marijuana for helping him earn a degree in industrial engineering from Florida State University, but at home it remained a source of tension between Horton and his parents. Horton said his father used to drug test me in high school. I would get home and my mom would try to look me in the eyes to see if I was smoking, he said. It was really bad. He had a really bad relationship for a while because of weed. Their fears were hardly unwarranted because he became involved in Oregon's legal cannabis industry more than 4 years ago. Horton had been arrested 3 times for marijuana possession. Horton compares the prevalence of marijuana arrests in the Black communities to cancer, and that a lot of families have someone close to them who is affected. And it's funny because white people use drugs on a way greater scale than Black people. But of course, they don't have the same experience, and they don't get arrested, and they don't get prosecuted. So it's kind of insane. Okay, so anyways, I read all this. It just talks a lot about, opening up a marijuana store and stuff like that. But then I went down to, these are just pictures of him, and then I went down to this video right here. And this is what I found most interesting, is this video, because I've been saying for such a long time that this whole mass incarceration was just another way to continue slavery. And we walk around thinking that, oh, we're free and slavery ended. But slavery never ended. Slavery was repurposed. Slavery was rebranded, but it never ended. And so let me play this video, and I'll get to the part that's just insane to me.
What happens to your children if they get a felony for smoking cannabis. My name is Wanda James, and together with my husband, Scott Dura, we were the first African Americans licensed to own a dispensary and an edible company in Colorado in 2009. When my father passed away, I had the opportunity to meet my brother, and when I met my brother, he had just come out of the prison system. When we think about somebody being in prison, especially for a felony, you would figure that they've done something really horrible, that they've hurt people or murdered somebody or did something really bad. And when he told me that he was arrested for 4.5 ounces of cannabis, I was shocked, because we went to the University of Colorado, and 4.5 ounces of cannabis was what we had every weekend. Nobody cared about it. CUPD would walk past and see us rolling joints on the steps of...
So let's not just think about, I want everyone to look at something that's 4 ounces. 4 ounces is not a lot. It is a very small amount. And to go to prison for 10 years for that tiny bit of marijuana, when they give white people less than that for murder, it's just insane. But that's not the part that I wanted to talk about. It's later.
Libby Hall, our dorm, and they would say, hey, kids, put that away. We put it away, cops would leave, and we pull it all back out and start rolling again. I believe his entire sentence was 10 years. Of those 10 years, 4.5 were actually spent incarcerated. During that 4.5 years of incarceration...
Oh, sorry. I just hit
my brother picked cotton.
That's the part I wanted you guys to hear. When I say slavery never ended, we have millions of Black men that are slaves today, doing the exact same thing that they were doing when they were back on the plantation. Okay? We still have Black people picking cotton. Okay, if that doesn't, you need to let that sink in your head, okay? That Black people are slaves and picking cotton today, just like they were before slavery supposedly ended. So when we walk around and we want to think about how free we are and how, oh, I don't want to, play the race card, you are living in a scam. You are being tricked, and you are being just bamboozled, okay? Because just because there's no shackles on us right now, on every black person that you see outside, does not mean slavery ended. Because when you can give someone 10 years in prison, oh, I'm sorry, 10 years back on the cotton field for possession of marijuana, something that grows on every tree. You throw a seed in the ground and it used to just grow right out of it. How dare someone tell you're going to go to prison for it? But they make these laws, they make these mass incarcerations so they can round up slaves, so they can keep their slaves. And you need to realize it. And it's disgusting when black people want to say, oh, if you do this, you're going to hell. Oh, I don't feel bad if black people go to prison for smoking marijuana. They shouldn't have been breaking the law. Well, John's right there and Paul's right there and they're smoking weed too, but they're not getting arrested for it. They're not picking cotton. But we still have black men that are picking cotton. We are still slaves. We are still in slavery. I'm going to play the rest of this video, but like, we need to get our minds, get our spirits, get everything just like so straight, because things are not as people think they are. Okay? You don't know what's going on behind those bars. You're not in those prisons. And even the little parts that you can see on TV are when they have these little reality shows, well, they'll show you what's going on in there. You don't know unless you've been in there, unless you've talked to someone that's been in prison. And it's the exact same as slavery, the exact same thing. This is disgusting. It infuriates me even when I think about all the black men that are in prison, because you have, 100 black men to one white man. Why are you allowing one white man to imprison you and to enslave you? And I know there is deeper than that. I know they have to be putting something in the vaccines and in the food and in the water to demasculate these black men. I know that they are, and I'm not saying that black men, I'm not saying that to be rude or to be mean or anything like that. But when I look at black men, and I know that they are the strongest, the fastest, the smartest human beings on earth, and they're being punked by pretty much the weakest, I don't get it. I have to figure out why, and I have to think about it and find some kind of logical explanation. And I'm not making up stuff, but these really are true things. There's been articles and stories about the government putting stuff in the vaccines to give black men autism. So that's definitely a reality. And so I'm thinking that there has to be something that they're doing in order to keep black men in a submissive spot. Because this is disgusting. Like, you're seriously picking cotton again, and you don't feel like you've been tricked. Like that, you just like I can't. I just can't even go on with. I'm gonna play the rest of this video.
To buy his freedom. It's even hard to say that my black brother was sentenced because of pot to pick cotton. It's a tragedy. It's an American tragedy. Myself and my brother were a perfect example of, depending on what zip code you happen to live in America, depending on whether you became a cannabis entrepreneur or a felon. I'm a former military officer, former corporate executive, former political consultant. What was important for us after Barack Obama's election was to be able to put a different voice and a different face on the idea of what was happening with social justice surrounding cannabis. Approximately 85% of the people who were arrested for cannabis during that time were Black and brown between the ages of 17 and 24. We wanted to make a difference, and we wanted to stand up. We knew that they couldn't make criminals out of us, and we opened our first dispensary.
For me as a chef, you know, the thing is that once I learned how to cook with cannabis, I enhanced the flavor. So my biggest joy out of it really was knowing now that I have another herb that I can cook with. I get probably as much joy as helping someone get to the next day or get through the day than the gathering with friends and we're celebrating.
Cannabis is 1,000 times better than anybody dealing with alcohol or the fog of, you know, people that.
Anyway, so great story. They opened a distillery. But like, my point is, this is disgusting. Okay. So first, the title of this article is very misleading and very annoying. It makes no sense. I don't see where this story is supposed to be going with this title. It's just very annoying. And I really thought that it was going to show some kind of redemption from the government. The legalization of marijuana did nothing for all those Black men that were affected by the mass incarceration and the quote-unquote war on drugs, which was really a war on Black men and a kind of a recruiting of slaves. That's really what it was. And that's what Black people need to realize when they want to sit there, when you guys want to sit there with your religion and thinking that if someone smokes marijuana or whatever they choose to do, they're going to go to hell. So I'm going to vote for this law. It's like, you really need to think about how America started and how it works. And your religious beliefs should not have anything to do with what your legal beliefs are. Okay? Because the legality of something has nothing to do with whether it is right or wrong. It has nothing to do with that. There is no moral compass on legalizing something. It just doesn't have anything to do with it. But you need to know, and I don't understand why we don't know this by now, 10, 20, 30 years ago, that laws are only made to negatively affect Black people. Okay, when they want to make something illegal, it is to negatively affect the Black community. That is it. It is not to better anything. It's not to, to make anything better or fix anything. It's always to negatively affect Black people. If you think they really did this war on drugs, right? They were talking about this war on drugs where they massively incarcerated millions of Black men, right? Why aren't they doing a war on drug in West Virginia with all these opioid addictions and meth addictions and the heroin addictions in Washington and Oregon and Idaho and West Virginia and Colorado? And why aren't they doing mass incarceration there? Because that's not a drug that Black people are on. It's not affiliated with Black people. So the war on those drugs means let's open up some rehabilitation centers, or let's sue the pharmaceutical company for making opioids available to these white women. It's ridiculous. And if you can't look at stuff like that, then you just shouldn't. Just don't vote at all. Don't vote. Don't think about anything that should be legal. Because when you look at laws, you need to look at how is this going to negatively or positively affect my community, the Black community? Okay, because that's how white people think. That's when they make these laws and they pass laws, and it's to see it's to what benefits them. Incarcerating millions of Black men and putting them back on cotton fields benefits them, and that's why it's done. It has nothing to do with marijuana or any other drug. So when you look at these laws, whether it's for alcohol, whether it's for drugs, whether it's for the legalization of, you know, what age you can legally have sex with someone, all of those things, you need to look at how is passing this law going to negatively or positively affect the Black community? What is their real motive? Because their motive usually is not to protect anyone. It's usually to harm the Black community. How can we use this law to harm the Black community? How can we keep our slaves? Oh, look, Black people are liking marijuana. Let's make that. Let's stiffen the laws on that. And then when it got to the point where, oh, geez, look how much money we could make for legalizing marijuana. We already incarcerated just millions of Black men. So, I mean, now we can make millions on it by allowing white men to sell it. And I know this ad is about, or this story right here is about this Black man that, you know, is opening up a weed dispensary. But by no means should you even believe that 10% of the owners of these pot facilities are Black. The majority of them are white, at least 99% of them. So this is just a little tiny minority. It's not doing anything. I thought they were going to talk about how this got some of the Black people that were wrongfully incarcerated for marijuana charges. I thought this was going to talk about how, you know, they lower their charges or got them out of prison or something. So and you know what, this is, you know, the reporter Kathleen Dixon, this white woman right here. So I should have looked and saw that she wasn't going to really say anything that's anything. I think she just wanted to do to put a Black person in an ad so she can get more readers, because it doesn't make any sense. Her whole thing makes no sense. But what we did get out of this is that Black men are still picking cotton for white men. So that's what we were getting out of that. And you shouldn't be. Black men shouldn't be. There's no reason. There is no reason that the Black men are still on the cotton field. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this story. Maybe there's a lot more to read if you want to read it, but it's, you know, it's whatever. Let me know what you guys think about this. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, yes, my Patreon account, I will put the link to that. I really, like, all my videos are getting demonetized, like literally everything went 90% down. It is, I mean, like, it's insane. It is insane. But the like majority of my videos are demonetized. So yeah, if you guys want to support me on Patreon, that is like greatly appreciated. And please share these videos on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and any other social media platform. And I will see you guys in the next video. Also, I will put the link to this article in the description box. You guys can find it there. Thank you.